we have in putting budgets together historically is that we haven't really gone out and asked citizens to give us their opinion as to what they think are critical issues that we as an organization need to be focusing on, and don't necessarily use all of that to, I don't think, to develop the budget to the extent that we should. And so I wanted to take a different approach. This past year, in putting together the budget, we approved a budget unanimously. It was the first time, as I said last night, that I've done a budget where people actually got reductions and came down and thanked us, but asked us not to cut them anymore. We had people from arts and science that come down and say, we support the manager's recommended budget, but don't cut us anymore, and they got 10 to 12% reduction. Nobody from the school system showed up to complain about a $35 million reduction, which was a $10 million reduction. So I think that we framed it in such a way through transparency in the process that people understood that we were all in this together. But before I go any further than that, let me just go around the room, start here, and have you introduce yourself, what you do, what agency you represent.
My name is Deron Mills. I will be the CEO of the new Shepherd's Credit Union in Charlotte, which will be under the Neighborhood Coalition of Churches.
Okay.
Mike Dames, educator, educational consultant on our process.
Mike and I go to Y together. I see him at the Y all the time, so I'm not going to say what I normally say. I'm not going to say it's good to see you before it's over.
We certainly want to welcome everybody. My name is Wade Ferguson. I'm the pastor of 15th Street Church of God, and also a part of the Men's Empowerment Coalition.
My name is Leggy Morissette. I work with the Charlotte Mecklenburg Community Relations Committee, where I manage the Fair Housing Assistance Program.
Good morning. My name is John James. I'm Executive Director of Favor Our Ministry. I'll say it again. That's up. We said it just last night. But at any rate, we house men. We give them like a second chance when they're coming out of prison, and we work closely with them to try and convert them into constructive, productive, tax-paying citizens.
I'm Ray Wolf from Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools. I primarily work with gangs, guns, drugs, truancy, and dropout.
Gardner Hawkins, Melange Health Solutions. We provide behavioral health care services for the last 10 years in the community, case management services as well.
Derek Anderson with Foresight Leadership Training. We provide organizational development, leadership training, and passing bill assistance for grassroots organizations, non-profit, healthy human service, and faith.
I'm Vicki Foster. I'm the Major of Community Services, and I think y'all probably know what I do. For the most part.
I'm Andy Doolin on the Charlotte City Council, but most importantly, what has me here this morning is that I love John Jennings. You know, John and I met on the mayor's crime caravan to Raleigh a couple of years ago. I just happened to be in charge of bus number 4, you know, and on the way up, I was sort of going back and forth the bus and really never even noticed the guy. And then on the way back, I got on the bus to come home, and there he sat, you know, and I said, were you on this bus on the way up? He said, yes. I said, well, I'm sorry I didn't get to say it. So I sat down, and we started talking. And the next thing I know, we were back in Charlotte, you know, and that was 4 years ago. And John Jennings doesn't really understand that he's sort of my walking minister, you know. I mean, he inspires me. He helps me. And I help him back. I spend a lot of time at the House of Favor. And during the last campaign, I'm taking more time than I should. But
Well, both of you talk a lot. So
but I am going to leave. I'm going to help this crowd. I'm going to say something. I'm going to leave. During this last campaign, I was going over to the House of Favor and getting his guys and putting them out at the polls. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, I was putting 2 men who I now really care for, but 2 men who I really didn't know, but they were John's guys, and putting an Andy Doolin for City Council sticker on them and putting them out at the Moorcroft Library at South Park. And these men stood there for 2 weeks, and then they worked Tuesday, election day, Tuesday. They stood there for 2 weeks breaking down barriers. Because a lot of people coming into that library, they don't see many black folks. They certainly don't see black males just out of prison. And those men over there were affable and saying hello and laughing. One of them had a birthday, and my opponent brought him a birthday cake, and they had a party with candles and balloons standing in the parking lot at the Moorcroft Library. That's the kind of men that John Jennings is going into prisons and finding and bringing back to our society. So I was on the phone. This is what I look like. I just read this morning with Javars Buford at Billingsville Elementary School. That Wednesday mornings is my reading day over at Billingsville. And so I was driving home to put my suit on and go to the funeral of the officer. And I was on the phone with John, and he said he was coming to see manager Harry Jones. And my car just did a back turn and Randolph Road to get down here to say hello to y'all and say hello to Harry and get an opportunity to see John. So that's y'all, whatever. I didn't know, I never heard of y'all before, but it's a heck of a good group. And if I can help you men who I don't know, I'm sorry I didn't get around to say hello to everybody when I came in, but if I can be of help to you, your group, if it'll help favor our ministries, I'm all over it.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Harry. I just want to come in and make an introduction.
Thank you,
All right.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Good luck with your new credit union, too.
Thank you. All right, Andy. A lot of you were there last night, and you heard a lot of where we are. For the benefit, just briefly, of those who were not there last night, sort of the Speakers Bureau that I'm on is to try to restate and where we are right now. What we're beginning to experience right now is that the economy is beginning to rebound. But the governments will be the last to come out of, I think, this economic downturn. And that is a direct result of an appetite that exists not to raise taxes. I used the example last night that private sector has the ability to meet its revenue needs by raising fees. If you pay attention to the credit card statements that you get and the new law that's gone into effect about how credit card rates are going to be controlled, that won't go into effect, I don't think, until April or May of next year. What the credit card company, of this year, excuse me, what the credit card company started doing was sending you notices to say that they're going to raise your APR. And pretty considerable raise. If you go and get cash through your ATM out of your credit card, the rate's going to be a lot higher than what it's going to be for purchases. And so they're getting out in front of this new law that's designed to contain interest rates on credit card transactions. Well, we don't have that ability to raise those taxes because we like that because of fees, because we are in a political environment. So I think it's going to make it very tough to meet some of the needs, while at the same time we are seeing increased costs. Think about it for a moment. Economic downturn, people being laid off work, people showing up at the door of DSS for services, people who traditionally have not had to access those services. They're showing up at places like crisis assistance ministry. So when the economy goes sour, the things that the services that we provide are counter-cyclical. Economy goes down, service demand goes up. Mary Wilson is dealing with about 25%, 30% increase in people who come through her door. The same that applies for crisis assistance ministry, and for those of you who run nonprofit organizations that provide direct services, you see people coming and asking for benefits. Foreclosure rates are pretty high. So that's part of what we're going through. The state of North Carolina, because we are a subdivision of the state, is going to impose, I think, more services on us. They started it this year. We're having to take over child support enforcement program.